Today, I would like to introduce a new case design for the Lenovo M720q Tiny to accommodate any dual-slot low-profile GPU. I also designed the front bezel to accommodate a 3.5-inch display for PC performance info, and replaced the CPU fan with an RGB fan. With these modifications, I turned the 1-liter affordable office PC into a playable gaming machine that can play most games at 1080p with medium graphics settings. So now let's sit back, relax, and I'll dive deep into the step-by-step PC upgrade process. For the GPU in this setup, I chose an MSI RTX 3050 6GB low-profile graphics card. However, the 3D case design should fit any dual-slot low-profile GPU, like the Intel Arc 380 or even the RTX 4060 low-profile, if you add a Pico PSU to provide power to the GPU. To install a graphics card in this tiny PC, you'll need a PCIe by 16 riser specifically designed for this series. This PCIe riser adapter is compatible only with the tiny PCs in this series, such as the M920X, M920q, M720q, and P330 Tiny. Now let's remove the top cover and SSD cage. In this setup, I'll replace the GPU fan with a 92mm RGB fan. So now let's remove the CPU fan. Since I couldn't find a fan adapter for the Lenovo Tiny PC to a PWM fan connector, I decided to buy a cheap replacement CPU fan from AliExpress. I cut the connector and wired it with the PWM fan cable to create a fan adapter for this PC. If you would like to learn more about wiring the Lenovo Tiny CPU fan connector with the PWM cable connector, please check out my previous video. I've included the link in the description of this video. Since I replaced the original blower-style CPU fan with an open-air fan, I designed a fan shroud for this new setup. While it may not be as effective as the original blower-style fan, this fan shroud helps the open-air fan push air through the CPU heatsink fins. Additionally, I can mount the fan with this bracket. I've learned from my previous design, where I used zip ties to secure the fan. This time, I want the mod to be more practical and easy for everyone to follow. I believe this 3D fan shroud can help everyone achieve the same results in a straightforward way. This new CPU fan design allows me to install it in the same way as the original CPU fan. The CPU fan shroud will lock in place with the chassis right here. Additionally, I designed a screw hole to secure this CPU fan using the existing screw holes in the PC chassis. With this 3D printed fan shroud, the fan installation becomes cleaner and more secure compared to using zip ties. Now let's remove the option board from the PC chassis to install the GPU. Before installing the GPU, let's connect the fan to the motherboard using the fan connector that I mentioned earlier. Now let's install the GPU. There is a screw to secure the PCIe riser with the chassis. Now, let's install that screw. And here's a set of my 3D printed case. For the front bezel, I designed it to fit a 3.5-inch display. It's not necessary, but it could give this old PC a new look with a modern feature similar to the NZXT Kraken Elite series, which comes with an info display. It looks really cool. For the top cover, I've also learned from my viewers. Many people asked for a specific GPU bracket to install with my 3D case. So this time, I designed the case to fit all kinds of low-profile GPUs or any other expansion cards with their brackets. This way, everyone can install their favorite card with this 3D case and its bracket without worrying about where to find the 3D model bracket for their card. To install the 3.5-inch display on the front bezel, slide the screen through the cutout space right here and then secure it with the screws. I need a USB-C cable to connect the screen with the PC. So now, let's connect the USB-C cable to the screen. Now let's install the 3D printed case. First, let's install the front bezel. This time, I didn't use the female-to-male USB-C cable to install with the 3D printed case like in my previous design. Instead, I used a USB-C cable like this. It may look a bit informal, but it's much easier to install, and everyone can do it. Additionally, the back of the PC tends to have many cables connected as well. Now let's secure the top cover with the front bezel, using 2 screws on the top and 2 screws on the side. And another 2 screws on the back. Now let's secure the GPU to the case with a screw. Alright, now the whole setup is completed successfully. The screen at the front can be connected to the PC like this. Now let's preview the final project. For the AC adapter for this setup, I use a Lenovo 300-watt charger. This AC adapter could provide enough power with the RTX 3050 GPU installed. Now let's perform the GPU stress test with FurMark. With FurMark OpenGL benchmark at 1080p, the frame rate achieved 60 FPS. The GPU temperature reached 75 degrees Celsius, while the GPU hotspot reached 85 degrees Celsius. Surprisingly, the GPU fan only spun at 50% of its speed. To fix the CPU power limit when installing a GPU on this tiny PC, I used the throttle stop app. I unchecked the BD PROCHOT, and now the CPU is running at full power at 35 watts. Now let's try some gameplay to check the thermal performance of this PC setup with the new case and CPU fan. Cyberpunk 2077 at 1080p medium graphics, preset with DLSS and FSR frame generation. Built-in achieves around 70 FPS. The CPU temperature is around 77 degrees Celsius, while the CPU draws 35 watts of power. The GPU is running at full 70 watts, and the GPU temperature is around 70 degrees Celsius. The gameplay is smooth and playable without crashing. It seems the 92mm fan not only cools the CPU, but also other components like the VRM and chipset. Doom Eternal at 1080p with medium graphics preset achieves around 150 FPS. This clearly shows that this budget-friendly, less than 2-liter in size PC can play games very smoothly. Now let's try God of War. With 1080p original graphics preset, the gameplay achieves over 60 FPS. In conclusion, transforming the Lenovo M720q Tiny PC with a custom 3D printed case has been an exciting journey into the world of PC modding. We've breathed new life into an affordable office PC, turning it into a modern and efficient machine. By designing a versatile case that accommodates any dual-slot low-profile GPU, No more worrying about finding specific brackets or being limited by compatibility issues. The case supports your creativity and component preferences. Thank you for joining me on this adventure. I hope it sparks your imagination and encourages you to dive into your own projects. The possibilities are endless when we combine creativity with technology. If you've got thoughts, questions, or just want to share your own experiences, let's keep the conversation going. Together, we can continue to push the limits and make amazing things happen.